Hi, and welcome to What's Up Williston, the town's monthly TV show where we take a closer look at things going on around town. I'm your host, Erik Wells. The town of Williston completed the purchase of the Catamount property as a new nearly 400-acre community forest last month. This will ensure the land remains a public open space, and was a significant milestone for the town. So my first guest this month is Taft Carpenter, the operations manager at the Catamount Outdoor Family Center. Tag, thanks a lot for coming on the program.
Well, thanks for having me. It's an exciting time for Catamount.
Yeah. Like I was saying to start, the town completed the purchase of the new community forest. The Outdoor Center is going to continue operations as a nonprofit with a license agreement with the town. And I thought to start off, if you could share with us the history of the Outdoor Center, what got it started and how long you've been in operation.
Sure. There's a lot of history at Catamount, starting with the fact that the home was built in the 1700s by Vermont's first governor, Thomas Chittenden, and for his son, Giles Chittenden. And it was basically a farm for many, many years. And the McCullough family has been involved in owning and living there for 150 years. And if you jump back to 1978, when Jim and Lucy were living at Catamount, they were thinking about making a career change from farming to something else like teaching, and came up with the idea of a cross-country ski touring center, which was rather revolutionary then. There were a few starting to prop up. Decided to do that, opened Catamount in '78, and was pretty successful in attracting cross-country skiers to come and pay for cross-country skiing, which was new then, on groomed trails and have some food and have all the amenities that normally come. Since then, different activities have been added to it. Around 1980, the mountain bikers were starting to become a popular thing. There was a popular sport, and they said, what a great property to do that, and Catamount added that, and then came trail running, and since then we've added many more activities.
So what other activities go on? There's trail use, but you guys also offer some race programs, camps.
Yeah. Well, in the winter, it's, as I mentioned, cross-country skiing. It's also snowshoeing. It's also sledding. And then over the past 8 years, fat biking has been popular out there. And in the summer, as you mentioned, our race program is really well attended. We have 150 to 200 racers come every Tuesday night in the summer for trail running series, ages 4 to 84. Oh, and on Wednesday nights, we have a mountain bike race series that's very popular. Maybe 125, 140 people come for that every Wednesday night. And in the fall, it transitions into cyclocross racing. One of our biggest events, if not our biggest event of the year, is our summer camps for kids, boys and girls ages 6 to 16, predominantly for mountain bike day camps during the summer. We do have a couple of running camps as well, and we do have some adult clinics for mountain biking as well. But that's the crux of it. We have a lot of races and special events and fundraising events and educational events, but that's what we do. For
the race series, that's open to anyone, right? You could never have raced before, and you could give it a try.
It is. It's pretty funny. I'm the starter for the race, and in the front line, you've got a couple of rows of people who just want to win. But most of our category is people that, after I've said go, they're not even moving their feet. They're still talking, and they wander off. So in that large group, it's very social. As I said, we've got an age disparity. We give all the little kids bib number 1. There's no timing, no racing, and they just go out. And we've got different lengths, of course, for some of the kids. So it's a wide variety of racers there.
And with the summer camps, are you guys taking registrations now?
We are. Well, registration opened at 6 a.m. on February 1st, and our first camp sold out within about a week of, actually days of that. We're about 3/4 filled in terms of our overall camp already, but we still have openings for camp.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, part of the things we want to talk about today, with the town owning the property, there's a few things for people to be aware of. I'll name a couple here of the points we wanted to share. It's open for pedestrian access, walking, hiking, running, snowshoeing, free of charge. Dogs are not currently allowed on the property, and the trails are open dawn to dusk, conditions permitting. So we're also asking folks to sign in at the Outdoor Center before venturing out, even if you're just walking without or not purchasing a day pass. Tag, why is it important, especially folks to check in if they haven't been at the property before? It's
sure.
Talking about 400 acres here, right?
Yeah, well, it's a good synopsis. Things really haven't changed, and that's what we're trying to assure the public, that all of the programs that we run and the services we provide are still going to be provided there. There hasn't been much change. One of the good news, as you mentioned, was that part of the process of funding from conservation agencies came with the stipulation that there'd be some pedestrian travel for free. So that's the change, in that people can not pay a fee and use the trails. Checking in is important for a lot of reasons. We want an idea of who's on the trail and when they got out on the trail, not that we count and time everybody out there. We want an opportunity to educate them. Today that trail is closed. Today we're having an event here. If you're looking for some place that's drier, that you might want to go on this area. If you have an ability that you want to cover, we'll line you up with that ability. We want to be able to, for insurance reasons, give you a voucher or a ticket that has the language on it, that you understand what goes on out there. And then understanding trail etiquette is another thing we like to do. So we aren't going to stop people for more than 30 seconds, and we'll get them on their way, but we'll make sure they have more fun. They can get a trail map from us, and we'll tell them where the best place to go that day is.
And you know, speaking about operations and managing the trails, the vast network you guys have there, what goes into that? What type of maintenance work do you need to do?
That's really behind the scenes. Most people think that trails were cut 100 years ago and they stay.
Look the same way, right?
Exactly the same way. So Julian is our trails manager, and he puts in about 2,000 hours a year on the trails, and we use some volunteer work to get another 500 hours a year. Just in clearing, we don't go a week without one tree falling across the trail. We don't go any period of time without debris falling all over the trail, without branches growing into our faces or growing up through our skis or whatever. So they can constantly have to be cleared, and they have to be maintained, creating drainage, building bridges. That's really a big part of what we do there. A big part of our expense in spending, again, 2,000 plus hours of somebody out there, keeping the trails crossable and protecting the trails.
Yeah, well, on that point, protecting the trails, if someone were to go on a trail that was closed, thinking like, what damage could I really do?
Yeah.
You know, what could happen?
Yeah, sometimes we think nature is bulletproof. That's a great question. I've noticed a lot of the other trail networks in Vermont are on their social media are posting this wonderful poster that says, please stay off the trails during this time of year. And one of the things that we remind people of, if we open a trail for a day of trail running or mountain biking or whatever, one day of that in an inappropriate time of year, which is now, takes about a month to fix. You get erosion, you get a poorer water quality, because what happens is the water doesn't move the way it normally does. It doesn't get absorbed the way it normally does. You get premature root exposure. You get tracks and ruts, which are a hazard to future people on the trail. And you lose a lot of vegetation that's really important to keep smooth trails and a natural habitat.
That's quite a bit just from, biking with a trail. Shouldn't be out there.
It is, yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to ask you, Tag, if someone has never been to Catamount before, and now they hear, it's towns purchase it, pedestrian access for free. What would you say to someone who's thinking about coming out for the first time?
It's a gem. It's 400 acres of just beautiful, versatile property. You've got opportunities to go out in the pastures and look east to Camel's Hump and Mount Mansfield, or go up to an upper pasture and look west over the over the Lake Champlain to the Adirondacks. So it's beautiful. Then if you want to get into a more wooded area, equally as beautiful with some great old trees. The wildlife habitat is unbelievable. There's 136 species of birds on the property and a lot of different animals on the property. A lot of history, a lot of geology to be looked at. It's just a gem, and we get people from as close as Williston saying, I never knew this was here. What a great place to just walk around. And if we add a little exercise to that, there's another good thing. Outdoor exercise, especially in the winter, is hard to come by.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on today, Tag. Anything else I didn't ask you want to share with folks?
No, we welcome people to come out and just have a ball. And again, of all ages, it's a real cross group. It's amazing what we see. Kids with strider bikes, which means they don't have pedals yet, on our little pump track out there. And adults, we're going to start a naturalist program. And so there isn't something, there's something for everybody, I guess is the better way to say that out at Catamount, and if people haven't been there, they got to get there.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah. And we'll encourage folks, like Tag said, check out the Catamount property. And we'll also be having a community celebration coming up on Saturday, May 11th. There'll be more details to figure out the exact time it's going to start, but check on the town website and hope to see you out there sometime soon. Thanks. My next guest this month is Williston's Planning Director and Zoning Administrator, Matt Boulanger. Matt, thanks a lot for coming on the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, I thought we could focus on new development in the town's growth center and the Taft Corners area. Folks will know it's a lot of construction taking place this construction season. Start out, what's kind of happening on the ground that folks will see out there?
Sure. Well, you're right. There's a lot to see right now in terms of, construction of new buildings, dirt moving around, and there's really two big sites in the Taft Corners area that are under construction right now. The first I would talk about is Finney Crossing. This is a large mixed-use project in between Zephyr Road and the Taft Corners Shopping Center. There's been residential construction going on there for about 6 or 7 years now, and it's entering its commercial phase. So the development closer to Williston Road is the more commercial side of the project. So you've got Union Bank building near the corner of Zephyr Road and Williston Road, and the Hilton Hotel building on the other end of the site, which if you were to drive by this April, you would see that up at its full 3-story height, not with siding on yet. And in the back, some of the last of the larger apartment buildings and some of the other kinds of residential units building out in Finney. The other project is called Cottonwood Crossing. This is the former driving range property behind Maple Tree Place. And that's also, a mixed-use project. It has a little more of a influence toward residential than commercial, although the first buildings coming in off the main street going in will be commercial, with the next row of buildings being retail with office upstairs, and then breaking into more and more residential and apartment type buildings toward the back of the site. So you see a lot of work going on there right now in terms of earth moving and utilities, stormwater pond, things like that.
And Finney Crossing, in the commercial section, I also know Healthy Living Market has an application for review, and there's a number of other commercial lots in there that will fill in over time. And wherever you kind of speak conceptually Finney Crossing from kind of a large standpoint, what it's looking to accomplish in kind of the town center, with the walkability aspects as well that are built in.
Sure. So there's been some version of this language in the town's comprehensive plan since at least 1990, that there was a desire for the Taft Corners area to be a design-conscious, pedestrian-friendly, downtown-like environment. So the goal being that it would be a place where somebody could live, where somebody could shop, and where somebody either living or shopping or both in that area would be able to get between different uses in the area, not always having to jump back in their car and drive between them. So walkable and pleasant and safe to walk and bike around. So putting all of those uses in close proximity to one another, connecting them with good pedestrian infrastructure, sidewalks, is all part of that, meeting that goal.
So we'll continue to see that kind of grow out over time. And I think I saw on the site plan there's also some green spaces and lots of other pieces to come together still.
Sure. So, a project like Finney Crossing, by way of example, that was first conceptualized back in the very early 2000s. So in its life cycle as a project from concept to build out, it's really entering into about its 18th year of existence as a project. And when that project was master planned, there was some idea of where the public and private streets would go, where the green spaces would be, what part of the project would be residential, what part would be commercial, where would the bigger residential buildings be and the smaller residential buildings, and how would it all connect with bike paths and sidewalks. So you have a master plan like that, and then it evolves as different uses come in. So it's been interesting to watch that from a farm field 7 or 8 years ago to where it is now.
And you've been with the town for about 11 years or so now?
Yeah, I came on in June of 2008.
So you've seen a lot of this from the permitting aspect from the beginning, right?
Certainly, and there's a process that begins with the way the town establishes its comprehensive planning, the zoning that implements that plan, And then the work of the Development Review Board, when specific projects come in and are reviewed against that zoning. And so, a project like Finney goes through many, many iterations of that. I think before the DRB, we're at about our 16th or 17th amendment to Finney Crossing over the last 10 years. And that would be typical of a project of that size, that the general concept is there, the desire to meet those walkability and mixed use goals is there, but exactly where the buildings are going to land, exactly what shape they're going to be, and certainly what uses are going to be in them, that all changes over time as the market and the interest changes. So like you said, healthy living, grocery store building with some other retail uses and a restaurant use coming in, that probably looks different than the concept building that might have been shown 18 years ago when the project was considered. But it's a commercial building allowed by the zoning, connected with good pedestrian infrastructure to the rest of the project, in close proximity to a residential part of the project. So those things stay the same.
A lot of pieces to it all. Just as you explained it, I think of all these factors and attributes that go into making something like this a reality.
Sure. So, if you were to come watch a Development Review Board meeting, we go from that sort of very high concept thing we've been talking about to, you would see our staff and our board talking about the number of parking spaces and how wide is the sidewalk going to be and where is the public art going to be located. And all of these much finer details that, taken together, are really what makes it go and what makes it a compelling place and a place you would want to be and that Williston would want to have in its town. So we'll be really getting into those details. Healthy Living's coming in this week, so Tuesday, April 9th, in front of the DRB as a concept review, so pre-application review.
And another thing that was in the news recently is REI is coming into the space, formerly occupied by Toys R Us. First store for this retailer in the state of Vermont. And what does this say about the viability of commercial retail in town and new uses to existing spaces?
Sure. Well, we have an ongoing concern in a place like Williston as online retail has become more and more prevalent, that the sort of in-person retail shopping opportunities offered by a place like Taft Corners that have been in Taft Corners for 20-something years, that there might be less demand for that. And we have seen in different times of the economy, some of those national chains go bankrupt on a national level, and even if the store that was in Williston was doing well, the chain goes away and the space becomes empty. So we saw that with Linens and Things, we saw that with Circuit City, and we saw that most recently with Toys R Us. So what the good news is that although we have a number of those large stores in Williston, we have enough, but not so many that when one goes empty, there isn't somebody else who's interested in going in. So if one or two of those go empty at a time, it's a compelling and an interesting enough place, or a place that other large retailers who might fill a space like that are interested in being. And so there's desirability and somebody else comes back in. That is not the case in some places in the country, places that were much more overbuilt with those big box stores especially, and when they start to go bankrupt, the stores go empty and they don't fill back up. They either need to be demolished and the site reworked or the building repurposed. And for the time being, we're not there in Williston, and that's a good thing because it keeps the place stable.
So we were talking a little bit about development review earlier. And so I'm trying to paint a scenario here. Say I'm a developer and I come to the planning office today. I've got a commercial lot that I own and I've got a concept I want to have built there. Kind of walk me through the process. What would I look like from kind of initial contact to submitting a plan and eventually having it approved and getting my shovel in the ground to get it built?
Well, most of those kinds of new developments, they start in the office. They start with the person who's interested in doing the development coming and working with the staff, often over a series of meetings over a series of months or even years, reviewing what that entity wants to do against the town zoning, the comprehensive plan, and can they do what they want to do within the boundaries of what the town requires through its zoning. So a lot of the big, red flag issues, or the things that are a kind of a hard no, that won't work in Williston, happens at a staff level, and the public who's watching the DRB meetings or watching the other side of the process wouldn't necessarily see that. We spend a lot of time working, well, could I have a water park in rural Williston? And we would say, well, no, we don't allow commercial uses like that in rural Williston. And things like that have been asked in the past. So I would say the first part is there's a fairly extensive process just working with the staff. Once that has concluded, if the project is viable, the first step you would see is a pre-application review. Okay. So as I mentioned, that's what Healthy Living is coming in for right now. This is a concept level review. We encourage the project proponent to have multiple ideas for how they would achieve their goals out on the site. So you might see different building locations, different places to put a driveway. In a residential project, different styles of dwelling units or lot layouts in a more rural subdivision. And the intent there is to hold a hearing in front of the DRB where there's a conversation that can happen. So we're not down to the point of counting the parking spaces or measuring the setbacks. We're talking about, well, here's a couple different ways that could be generally in compliance with the town's rules. Which one of these do we think is most achieving the goals of the town? Pre-application results in a set of adopted recommendations by the Development Review Board, and then the applicant returns, once they've followed along with that, with what's called a discretionary permit application. And that's essentially the big review by the town's Development Review Board. So at this level, there's not multiple concepts anymore. There's basically one idea on the table, and it's fully engineered. So now they haven't just sort of sketched in sort of gauzy detail, maybe we'll do this over here, that over there. We're talking about what's the capacity of the stormwater pond, exactly how wide will that sidewalk be, what's the plan for that piece of public art, or exactly where is the open space going to be located, and what's the impact on wildlife. All of those things are done at a much, much greater level of detail. And concluding that, typically the Development Review Board, if there's an approval, there's a set of conditions of approval. You may move forward, but you need to do this, this, and this. Many of the things on those conditions have to be reflected in the final plan. And then that final plan is signed either by the Development Review Board or myself, depending on if they've delegated it to me. And then, and only then, can somebody actually apply for permits to do those things that the DRB approved. And there might be, for example, in Finney Crossing, there's a permit for every single residential unit in Finney Crossing, and they all tie back to one or more sets of those approved final plans. And then that permit is posted and noticed, and then that permitted activity, that building might get inspected when it's done. So that's the whole process, and it can happen fairly quickly, 12 to 15 months, or 12 to 15 weeks even sometimes, and sometimes it's going to happen in phases and over a number of years.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the process, all the details that go into it, different stages, and then the Development Review Board level. And if someone's interested in attending a review, there's a number of public meeting opportunities for a person to learn about that, hear testimony, provide testimony, comment, that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the board is really encouraging of having people come and speak before them. There are often folks who know more about the site than the DRB members might know because they live near it or they have some connection to it. And the board is there to enforce and implement, a set of pretty prescriptive rules, but they are also there to try to understand, if there's more than one way to meet those rules and you've got some public input that says, well, it would really work better this way and here's why, they do certainly take that into account.
If someone's looking to get more information about a project, what would be a good resource for them?
Well, the first way is you can always call or email the planning office, and any of the staff can connect you to the most recent set of plans and things like that. We do also post all of the pending applications and all of the materials and the staff reports on the town's website. So if you go to Public and Records and Documents on the town's website, you can see whatever's coming up on the DRB agenda. We are generally putting that stuff on the website as soon as we receive it. And we want to make it as broadly available as we can.
Well, thanks a lot, Matt. I think we'll have to wrap up for today.
Great.
But thanks for sharing what's coming up and getting us a better idea what the process looks like.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we'll jump into our community notebook segment, and Matt will hang out here for a couple minutes. Feel free to chime in, Matt, if anything you want to add. Community notebook here. This is the time every show we take a look at things coming up around town to know what's out there for folks to take advantage of. So a reminder, the fire department pancake breakfast is coming up Sunday, April 14th, over at the fire station from 8 in the morning to noon. There's suggested donations you see on the screen: $8 for an adult, $6 for a senior, kids 2 to 12, $5, and kids under 2 eat for free. Chance to meet our great emergency responding team, check out our apparatus and equipment and our great firehouse. And then also coming up on Saturday, April 20th, is the Rotary Club annual egg hunt. It'll be held on the green near the library, and it starts right at 9 o'clock. So I want to make sure you get there early, because I know the eggs are found quickly, and it's over fast. The Old Brick Church concert series is continuing this month. Friday, April 26th is a performance by Patty Larkin. Doors will open at 6:30, and the show starts at 7. It's at the Old Brick Church in Williston Village. If you want to purchase tickets, you can check it out on the town website, or you can stop by the town clerk's office to purchase. Also, we've got Green Up Day coming up in early May, and Brad in our planning office, he's taking sign-ups and reserving road sections for folks. You see his numbers on the screen or his email address. If you're participating as a group, just let Brad know how many people are estimated to join you, and he can help out with logistics, and we'll be getting bags in later this month to pick up ahead of time as well. And also, we've got our spring recreation programs starting off. There's a number of opportunities out there for folks of all ages. If you want to visit willistonrec.org for more information to sign up, you'll see on the screen a number of different programs coming up in April and May. We also launched, right around town meeting in March, a new Williston service request portal. There's a link right on the homepage of our website. This is a new way to request non-emergency services from the town. For example, if there's a pothole on your street, a tree you're concerned with, a potential planning or zoning issue, it's an easy online form to fill out, identify what the issue is, where it is, and you can also stay updated from the town regarding your request. You can set it up so you get a text or an email or an automated phone call whenever the town enters an update into the request, into the system. You can find the link right on the town website homepage. Reminder, the town of Williston's on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at TownWillistonVT or like us on Facebook. And we're always looking for feedback and segment ideas. See my contact information on the screen. So that's going to wrap it up on What's Up Williston this month. I want to thank my guests again, Carpenter and Matt Boulanger, for joining us. Our next episode will premiere in the second week of May. I'm Erik Wells. I'll see you around town. Have a good day.